Welcome back. I'm Mary and this is The Painted Peach. Today I am in a playlist collaboration for What Would You Make, hosted by Rustic and Lace DIY, Divine Designs, and Crafting My Best Life with Lisa. Let's get started with DIY number 1. This is one of my kits. It is an angel chunky cutout. It has pre-drilled holes in the head so that you can add hair, and everything you need will come with this kit. I'm starting out by painting it with some ochre yellow color, and then we are going to do a chippy effect over the top so that the yellow shows through under the tan paint. So the second step of that is adding some Vaseline, or you can use Vaseline-based chapstick or anything like wax to get your chippy effect. So I just added it in certain areas, and then I'm painting over it with the color I want on top. Over in my description, you can find the links to all of the kits that I'm showing you today. This is kind of like my tutorial video on how to put the kits together. It's really nothing major. They're mostly wood cutouts with a little bit of accessories for you to make it your own. This one's probably the most advanced because of the hair, but you can make them your own. You can use the accessories that come with it, or you can use whatever you like. Now we're just drying that up really well, and we're going to get our paper towel and wipe off the paint where the Vaseline is at. This will show your chippy. I am kind of correcting a few areas that I didn't quite like. Then I got out my paint scraper and got a little bit more scraping going on, and I really like the way that this turned out with the little peekaboo yellow coming through. And I'm just getting out some black paint so that I can make the face on the angel. I'm using the opposite end of the paintbrush to make two little eyes, and then I kind of draw out a mouth with a pen and go over it with some paint. I'm not real good at making mouths, so I wanted to draw it on before I painted it. Now I'm just using some pink Distress Oxide, I think it's called Flamingo, to make some cute little rosy cheeks, and that makes the best little primitive look as well. In your kit, you'll get pieces of this brown wire for the hair. You do not have to use this for the hair. I just thought it was super cute, so I'm adding it with the kit. It is very easy to make some little curls with, and I thought it was absolutely adorable. You could also use fabric, yarn, anything your little heart desires, but I will be including this wire in your kits. So how I'm attaching it, I'm just sticking it through the hole and I'm tying it on, and I'm just going along and doing that for each of the pieces. And once I have them all on there, I'll take a paintbrush or a pencil or something along those lines, and I'll just make little curls with it. Super easy to do and lots of fun. Now, as you can tell, I did not paint the back of my angel. I do suggest before doing this step, if you're going to paint the back of yours, to go ahead and do that. That way you're not painting over your hair. But for the sake of this video, I just did the front for a tutorial. All right, here you see me using the paintbrush to create the curls, and you can make them as crazy as you want, as long as you want. I tried to make them a little bit close to the head for the primitive look, but it's your angel. You do it the way you want to do it and make it your own. Now you'll notice this angel does not have a halo. You can create your halo with this same wire, or you can just do a halo however you want to and attach it to the back of the head. I will include some extra wire to create a halo in the kit. I do not add one to mine. I really liked it without the halo. All right, in your kit, you'll also have some pieces of fabric to make a bow, and they'll be primitive style fabrics. This is the ones that most likely will be in your kit. It could vary, but they will be primitive to match the style of this angel. And I'm just making a little bow with the strips and tying it off with another piece of fabric. Once you get that done, you can add a little add a little glue and attach it to your angel, and then you can add the button. The buttons will vary in your kit as well. I have a lot of vintage buttons, so I'm just throwing one of those in for the center. Mine just happens to be a fabric button. And then I'm just taking some Distress Oxide around all the edges and making it a little bit more primitive. And here she is. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll show you the finished little angel in just a moment. Isn't she lovely? All right, let's move on to DIY number 2. This kit is 2 little red birds, little chunky shelf sitters, and they are one big and one small, and they both come in the kit. You'll also get some jute string to make a bow and a few little extras. I am staining these with a burgundy paint that I have watered down, and then I'm going to use the Vaseline around the edges and then use a regular red, I think this is candy apple red, and paint them up. Now that they're dry, I'm just going to wipe away those edges just to give that outline where we put the Vaseline of the darker color. You can see this color dried a lot darker than it went on, and I think by doing the undercoat of the burgundy it helps that effect happen. Now I'm just painting on my little Cardinals faces. You know, they have the little black area, so I'm using some folk art black paint to add that, and then we will add a little eye. I'm also using a little bit of orange folk art paint to create the beak. This is probably the most simple kit that I have, the easiest to do, and it's just a little bit of painting. You don't have to be an artist to create these birds. It's really simple to create. I'm just using the end of my paint brush to make the little white eyeball, and then I'll put a little tiny black speck in there as well with this little tool here to have the effect of the eye. The next thing I'm going to do is make some little lines to show the little feathers and the wing on the birds. Really simple, nothing too technical. I'm also going to sand the edges to give that primitive outlined look. I think it really makes the project when you do this. It gives it a little bit of depth. The next thing I'm doing is just adding a simple little jute bow to each of the cardinals, and they will be finished. And here they are. I think they are delightful, and I hope that you like them too. All right, let's move on to DIY number 3. This kit is ice skates, and it is more like a door hanger style cutout. They're a little thinner. They're not the chunky as the last two were. I cut mine out of an old project. Yours will be, of course, new wood. So the backs of mine actually turned out pretty cool from the old project. You'll see that at the end as well. And I'm just using some Snow White paint at first to cover all of the old project that was on this board. These skates come with pre-drilled holes and fabric for your laces, as well as a few bells for the top of them. I am using some Folk Art metallic silver paint to first add a layer on these ice skates for the metal part. I do end up covering this up, but I did want the metal to be under there in case it showed through. We are going to make these a more primitive style skate. Of course, you can make yours any way you want, but I'm just showing you the way I would create it for my decor. These kits are very versatile, and you can create them in any way, shape, or form that fits your decorating needs. I'm just making sure that I get the whole metal piece covered, and I do a couple coats of that, and then I add a little bit of a different touch. Now, when I do add this next touch, I forgot to record. I had turned it off to go find my cinnamon, and then I forgot to press record. So you'll see there that I used cinnamon and Mod Podge to create this rusted effect on the bottom of my skates. So I just added the Mod Podge and then shook on the cinnamon, and then it creates the rust. Very simple to do. So sorry I did not record it. I'm just making sure that's nice and dry before we move on so I don't knock any of it off. And I do suggest using a spray Mod Podge after you're done with this project, just to protect that cinnamon and Mod Podge that's on there. I'm just adding a little bit of plaster paint now just to get rid of all that stark white. I like mine to be a little dingy, and I'm adding a little bit of distressed oxide on there as well. Now this is the part that kind of gave me a little bit of a fit. I needed my holes to be a little bit wider, so I will do that on the ones I cut for you guys. But I am just using this primitive fabric to lace up my skates. Now I put it through, and then the one that's in the back I do not lace. I just keep pulling that up and lacing over that as I go all the way up. Now I'm using a few rusty bells. The bells that are in these kits may vary because I only have a few of these, but I do have other rusty bells as well. And then I'm just gluing and tying the ribbon around it, or the fabric around it, so that they hang. And then we'll do skate number 2. While I finish up this skate, I do want to remind you that this is a playlist collaboration for What Would You Make, and you can find the links to the hosts and the playlist in my description. Now I am taking some jute twine, which will also be in your kit, and I'm just gluing and stapling it to the back of my project. You can see a little glimpse of what those skates look like in the back, and I just love those. I almost wish I would have used this side instead of the other. Anyways, we are going to staple and glue these on to make sure they're nice and secure, and then we are done. Here is the finished project. I think they are so cute. All right, here is DIY number 4. This is another red bird. This is a chunky shelf sitter, and it is a single red bird. It's a little bigger than the other two. And we are going to do the same effect by staining them with that watered down burgundy paint. I made a super mess in the process of making this red bird. Anyways, I'm making sure they're good and dry, wiping them up really well to get any debris off of them, and then we'll move on. Now I'm just scrambling around trying to find some red paint, and this is actually the candy apple paint. I'm not sure what the other one was, but I'll try to figure that out. I'm just adding the paint right on top of this burgundy, and I'm only doing the front pieces of it. I'm not doing the edges or anything like that. And we're going to give that a good dry. I wanted the edges to be the burgundy color so that it gives a good outline. And then I am sanding these pieces on the edges to give that outlined, primitive, distressed look. And then we'll move on to creating the face. So I'm just etching out where I want my face to be, and I do make a little bit of a mistake when I go to put the beak on, so I just wipe it off. Since the paint was still a little wet, I was able to do that, and it was super easy to fix. But it's just paint. Remember that you can always paint right back over it and start fresh. Here I added the little black area where the eyes go, and now I'm just etching out where I want my beak. This ends up not being where I want it, so I just wipe it right off and continue on making the beak where I want it. He was looking a little bit Angry Bird-like, and he does kind of end up looking like the Angry Bird, but he is a cardinal, so I guess that makes sense. As you see here, I'm adding eyes. I do end up not using these eyes because I feel like they looked a little too cartoony for me and not going with the primitive vibe. So I do end up using buttons. The buttons will be included in this kit for you to use as well as some fabric and jute twine for a little bow if you want one. This little bird is chunky and not proportioned, and I just love that about him. His wings are not exactly the same. His body is a little bit chunkier than normal, and his little tail is just the cutest. So just keep in mind when you get kits from me, they're not all the same. They're all hand cut by me individually, and it's not some factory type of thing that's going to look exactly alike each time. Here I am picking out my buttons, and I end up going with a little bit of an off-white colored button, and I add some black thread into them to give them a little bit more of a realistic button look, and I think it turns out super cute. Here I am fiddling with that thread. Takes me a minute to get them threaded, but I think it's worth it in the end. The look of the threaded button versus the unthreaded button just gives that extra touch So I do suggest that you thread your buttons and maybe with a contrast color so that it shows up well. Now I'm just going to add my cute little bow for a finishing touch, and this little guy's all finished. Look how adorable he is. All right, let's move on to DIY number 5, and he is a snowman. He ends up being a snow girl in the end, but I really, really, really love this shelf sitter. It comes with fabric, a cute little heart, and a little carrot nose, and you can make it your own. You can do it like I do, or you can go a totally different route. I chose blue for this snowman because I just love blue and white in the winter. It is just my favorite. And I'm adding some of that pink distressed oxide for the cheeks. I do decide not to make a mouth for this little guy, but you could, of course. I do add 2 little black dots with the end of my paintbrush. I had to pull that nose back off because I was like, oh, silly, you forgot. I am outlining this with a little bit of blue. I do go back over that with some white because I got a little messy with it, and I really like the outline look of it. I do apologize that I'm a little bit out of frame with this one, but I'm glad that it still captured what I was doing in the most part. Now we have some black wire that will be included in your kit, and this is there to make some little arms. I think this really, really makes this project super adorable. I'm just stapling it here to the back, and I'm also adding a little bit of glue. And I'm going to use these pieces of wire to wrap around the front. I am so sorry that was out of frame, but here you can see I'm also going to include some little tiny mitten cutouts from the fabric that I have, and they will be on the ends of the wire. Well, they won't be when you get it, but you'll attach them to the ends of the wire and then glue them to the heart. It's like he's holding this little heart. It is so cute. Also want you to know that I built this kit as I was making this video. I just decided that I wanted to do it this way mid creating, and so that's how this kit became created. And now I'm just adding a cute little fabric bow with the fabric that will be included in your kit, and it turns out spectacular. I just love this snowman. I think it's my favorite one of this release. And here she is, all finished up. I want to remind you to check out the playlist in my description. I'd like to thank my host, Rustic and Lace DIY, Crafting My Best Life with Lisa, and Divine Designs. And remember, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell if you like what you see. And as always, stay peachy. See you next time.